Yeah, so I just fell in love with that whole thing. So it was the artistic side of. What?
It's very distracting. He's got this writing going across his forehead.
Oh, that's probably good for that.
You had a very weird tan. Sorry.
No, that's cool. Remember. So I just fell in love with that, and especially with National Geographic back then, I haven't looked at it for a while, just this sort of semi-candid storytelling, real world things and real expression, and but the way it was shot, it was like a window into the world, and it wasn't about the photographers. I think they do that really well. So it's like taking a snapshot out of life, and as a viewer, it just really draws you in, and that really sparked something in me. And I saved up, and I saved up, and I saved up, and when I was 19, I bought my first pro camera, which I had for years, and it was just all for me, really. And there's a bit of a story with gear, but gear's not really the important thing. But anyway, I went on a journey, and I've basically mostly sought the information myself. I've just been hunting it out, and it never stops. Like any profession, if you really commit yourself to it, you never know everything, and you're always searching out more stuff. And and it can even be a genre. One genre that I don't shoot much is babies. But if I do shoot babies and I do shoot mums or maternity, I try and do it in a really unique way. And if you look at someone like Heston as a chef, if you watch Heston, yeah,
so funky.
Yeah, he is. But what he does, his brilliance is that he takes the ingredients. He'll seek eclectic ingredients, but the best ingredients he can, and he'll use his own expression to bring them together.
Scientific sort of stuff.
Yeah. But they're still ingredients. So he's just going like this. I'll take this portion, that portion. And when you look at it from that point of view, photography can be unlimited in terms of the number of combinations of things you can do. So that's where, in my work, some of the creative shots that you might have seen, like using, you might have done the steel wool spinning shots. How many of you have done that? Put your hand up if you've done that. You guys haven't done it?
The steel wool on fire? Yeah.
Do any of you not know what I'm talking about?
I've seen a photo of the steel wool on fire.
Yeah. Do you understand how it works?
Yeah, you need to have the most finest steel wool.
Yep.
Which you can get at Bunnings.
Yeah.
And then you need like a long dog leg.
Yeah.
And with with like a beater type of thing.
Yes.
That you can put it into.
Yes.
And then light it up on fire and then spin it like crazy.
You can.
Get that.
Yes. I saw one a couple of weeks ago. Someone made one that's like this big. Yeah, we're about to do that. No, we're not. In the hallway. So taking something like that and going, okay, I've got a bit of an idea. And in that case, it was Sarah, who was a maternity photo. We went down into the tunnel down on the causeway, and actually we brought a few techniques together. So we actually lit her with a softbox while we were doing a time exposure with the all in one frame. So it's going, how can I know how to do that, and I know how to do that, how am I going to bring it together? Tom and Alex, there's a shot there of them, he's kneeling down, he's just down on one knee, right at the end of their wedding, and there's just stars. So again, it's a long exposure for stars, and walking in and manually popping a strobe through a softbox to light them up, and it's actually the flash that paints them sharp into the shot. They were actually in the shot the whole time, they just weren't showing up because there wasn't much light on them. But the strobe is what popped them out. And it's having the courage to have a crack at it 3 or 4 times and screw it up and get them on side so that you guys just laughed before. If the clients are laughing and they're happy, they don't care. It's not a problem. They're part of the process and they love it. Because when they see the finished shot, they get goosebumps up the back of their neck and go, we are so happy to have had you here. And that just validates your whole job. That could be the 3,000th frame out of 3,000. And sometimes at a wedding, for example, they won't get to that point till they've seen it. I've had some grooms in particular who they're never really quite sold on photography until you push it harder right at the end and you go, right, I'm knackered, I can't be bothered doing it anymore, and you go, no, that's not enough, I'm going to come up with something really special for them.
Is that like the photo where you've got the whole bridal party jumping up in the air?
That could be one. One for Sam and Renee, there's a shot there. It's a silhouette at Pickled Sisters winery in Rutherglen. It was right at the end of the wedding. I was packing the car and I looked over and the moon was coming up between some trees, and I went back in and dragged them off the dance floor, and I walked out in that and I had my phone hanging out of my mouth with the torch on, like hanging down because I couldn't hold the torch. Setting up my camera, holding it down and pushing it against the dirt because it was a long exposure to get the stars to come out, but I had to hold it still. So I've got my knee in the back of the camera and I'm jamming the camera up against it and setting it off with my thumb and just framing the shot out of instinct. And they're up against the fence line. He's actually an amputee. And he said to me, in any of the creative shots, I'd like to not make a big issue out of that. I'd like to kind of... So I had to set them up. So he was kneeling and you can't see that, but he's kissing her on the back of the hand and holding her hands, and for them that was that shot. You know, that was just that, going the extra mile. And you know, if I'm doing 50 weddings a year, anything between 40 and 50 is what I'm sort of averaging, then it's those shots that drive me to keep going and sign up a whole lot more for next year. So you can ask a question.
Yeah, I know Sam and Renee.
Yeah.
And I wondered with that, in knowing something like that, in knowing that he is an amputee, is that something that you approach your client with, or do you let them come to you with that as a full conversation? That's
a really good question. It's having the comfort to bring it up. Just like you asked me that question then, it's exactly the same for them. So that if it's an issue, will come up in the dialogue if you're genuinely connecting with them.
Yeah.
And he'd say to me, look, in some of the shots, just be sensitive to it. But when he was getting ready, he was running around the house in his jocks. Like, you're not going to not get it. And I got shots of him putting his shoes on and you know, the best man rolling the sleeves up around what's left of his arm. And he's perfectly fine with it. I think it was just all he was saying in his own way was, I'd like to have a few that we can put in a frame where it's not a huge, like a feature.
So it doesn't have to be...
Yeah, like it's just the empathy, you know, and that can be a bride that might have being a bit self-conscious about the way she might look in her photos. But honestly, that all just comes out of the dialogue. If you're having an open and honest, engaging dialogue with your client, they'll come out with it. And if they're hesitant, it's up to you, if you're going to do that sort of work, to be sensitive. Like, half of my job is being a psychologist. It's getting people over that line where they feel like they're comfortable enough to say, you know, we want this or we don't want that. Or on the fly, if they have a change of heart, they can confidently say to you, what do you think about this, Pete? Or are we going... Because you see it, I've been to a few weddings where it's just been railroaded by someone who's the photographer, and they're calling the shots, and they've put their client on the back foot, and client's gone quiet, and they're just wearing it. They wear it all day, and they come out of it feeling disappointed. Where, you know, I'll even offer I pick up Hollywood tape on the way to the wedding. I'll ring and offer a coffee. I'm on my way, I'm running 15, 20 minutes early, I'm grabbing a coffee, do you want one? Tracy or whoever the bride is. And I'm using the Hollywood tape example because I've done that. Did that up in Bright a couple of months ago, and they were blown away. So I was actually calling on the way and saying, is there anything you need? And it was the weekend before they forgot the Hollywood tape, and I just jokingly said, oh, you wouldn't believe last weekend they forgot the Hollywood tape. And the bridesmaid said, oh shit, we forgot it. And it turns out the lady that owns the dress shop in the main street of Bright is best mates with the bride's mother. And I walk in and she goes, it's on me, and just gives it to me. So there's just connections on connections on connections. So it's just having the confidence to be able to just have the connection and empathy So the biggest transition for me in all of those years of shooting for me would be going out and going, I'm going to go and shoot motor racing, or I'm going to shoot this, or I'm going to shoot that, and it's just going to be for me. Don't know, but I just really want to practice the technique. But really it got to the point for me where I wanted to practice shooting people more. You know, and you know, street photography like Eric Kim and all these guys on the internet who, like, any of you have seen his stuff, Eric Kim, he goes around the world teaching street photography, shoots on a Leica, and there's a bit of a set of photographers who do street photography. Intrinsically, street photography is really creepy. It's artistic, and done right it can look amazing, but there's something creepy about taking unsolicited photos of people in public. So if you want to practice shooting people, you know, yeah, well, it can be that. If you do it well, the professionals who do it very well, that's obviously an art in itself to do that with empathy, and to be able to walk up to someone cold on the street and say, "You look amazing. Do you mind if I take your portrait? I'm telling some stories, and I'd really like to get your image." And he gets videos of himself doing it. He's amazing. He can get people on side. But if you're just walking around doing these ones, which we all do it, we've all tried it, it can be a little bit. So for me, I actually offered just to shoot some events up here for nothing. It was giving it for nothing. I said, there were actually some church groups that had some youth concerts on. I said, I'm going to come out and shoot youth concerts for you, and I'm going to give you all the images if you let me shoot it. They win, I win. So I'm the official photographer, they get all the shots. The next year, we've got a concert on, but we want to pay them. That was the first step.
So you offer free first, so you can get that contact?
That was when I started.
When you started?
That was when I first started, and in fact the first wedding that I shot, I did it in exchange for a lens. Kelly and Tommy's wedding.
Okay.
And I said, and it was an 18 to 135, f4 to 5.6. Fantastic lens. You don't have to have a 1.4 or a 1.2 to have a great lens, or a 2.8. They're better in low light, but we had an overcast day that day. It was something in the air, and we got some one of the best weddings I've ever shot. It was that first wedding, because I had so much riding on it. They gave me the wedding, the lens, and I shot their wedding with that lens. So they trusted me enough to give that to me in advance, and I used it for their wedding, and I kept it, and that was my license to shoot 3 the next year. And then I shot 9, and then I shot 43 in subsequent years. And mostly off word of mouth. So people see how you work and what you're doing. It doesn't have to be your full-time thing. It doesn't have to be. Like we've always got this. Have any of you got visions of that, or have you defined where you want to go with it? It's a very broad question across a lot of people. Are you still figuring it out, or anyone want to shoot weddings? Put your hands up. 2? Maybe? Children. Baby shots? Yeah. Corporate? Sports? Yeah? Awesome. Creative, artistic? Yeah. Like high artistic? Yeah. What sort of things?
Crazy.
Sorry?
It's really crazy and vibrant.
Yeah.
Flowing.
So just experimenting with colour and texture and just incorporating different things, and yeah.
She loves graffiti just like that.
Oh yeah. Hosier Lane.
I don't like the yellow.
That frame there, Tina and Dean, that was in the absolute belting rain. Pouring rain.
Does it always rain at Hosier Lane?
Oh, mate. I've got photos of the gear, and it's like you've got a big bucket of water and just plunged it in and pulled it out. It was pouring rain. Really different wedding though. They had their formal shots before the ceremony, and they had no bridal party. They had an old vintage Rolls Royce. Her wedding dress is canary yellow. It stood up by itself. They took it out of the wrapper and it stood up by itself. There was so much tulle in it, it stood in the middle of the room in her shape.
It is a gorgeous dress she's wearing.
He's a graphic artist. He's actually done those. I don't know if you've ever been to Manhattan's. He's done the canvases on the wall in there. That's his work. So he's a professional cartoonist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
I just didn't know whether they're tying with the lane or not, that's all.
Yeah. No. Well, I think that's partly why. Yeah. Well, why they wanted to go there was because he has that high artistic sort of thing.
It's a great line.
Yeah. Oh, and it's complete. They painted it all out. I think blue or green. And one artist went through recently. I think it was last year or the year before. They just painted everything out, one colour. So it was all just like a blank canvas. And then they've gone through and repainted it all again.
Where was that one taken?
Hosier Lane in
In
Melbourne. Yep. And yeah, I've used that a few times for weddings. So most of these are correct, like things like Anzac Day Gold Cup festivals. But basically, for councils, it's anything that's sort of contemporary and happening. You know, if they've got a need, they'll ring. If it's economic development, or I just did some for Wodonga on the bike track, lifestyle type shots, which Ben's actually modelled for previously for some government clients in Victoria.
Oh, it's that shot.
Yeah, him and Laura on their pushies. And then I'm doing one on Thursday. I just got a call literally when I was sitting down in the cafe of a Albury young kids skater down at the Albury skate park. You know those power boxes on the side of the road? They're starting to put pictures around them. So we're going to do some creative shots of him to go on one of those. So you get really kind of, I get all sorts. There's Master Builders Awards on Friday night, and the tourism shots Friday morning, and then I'll be working on weddings, and then client meetings. So when I started that year, I did 43. It was on top of a full-time job. So that was the year before I transitioned to doing it full-time. So it was client meetings in the morning before work, a shoot at lunchtime, and then so I'd work in the morning, have a sandwich on the way to the shoot, do an executive headshot or something like that, or a portrait, go back to work for the afternoon, and then go home in the evening and work and do quotes, processing, deliveries, and hopefully get myself ready to go the next day. So that was that first year. It was one of the biggest years of my life. It was huge. But the aim with that year was to come out of that year owning all the gear and not borrowing any money and not spending any money out of the photography business. So it's a big thing to try and resist if you're looking at, always try and roll your work. If you're looking at gear, roll your work into the gear rather than your finances. Don't spend your money on it if you can avoid it. Create a job and offset that against the tools. That's a really good way to go, because that's a good indication of where you're going or whether you've got forward momentum with it. So if you can do that, sometimes it's good to offer something for free, you know, just to make an introduction and say, here's some of my work, or even say, look, I'm actually going to be attending. I've paid to come along. Do you mind if I bring my camera? I'll get some shots for you. And you can have them, and then if you have a need later on, you'd be surprised how many people would ring you. That's really one of the ways I got my start, was doing it that way. The other thing too, I'll just flick out there, this is one you can kind of put under your hat. One thing that I find is a really great investment has been in the business of it for me, is when I was talking before about doing extra, that's your marketing. For me, that's my best marketing. If I'm at a wedding and I'm booked for 10 hours, I don't leave until I've been there for 12. So if I spend 2 extra hours there and the groom comes up to me, he goes, slaps me on the back and goes, Pete, what are you doing? You finished 2 hours ago. I said, no, I didn't. I'm doing this for you. This is on me. But that's just, for them, it's through the roof. Either way, for me, I've dedicated my day to it. For that Master Builders Awards, a couple of nights ago, we're standing in the foyer, and there was 300 people attending it, and it was upstairs at the commercial club, and there was a family off to the side, and they I noticed them all milling around. They weren't actually part of the group, and they knew someone and they came over. And I was taking group shots at that stage, and I had a joke with them, and it turns out we just got chatting, and then it turns out it was someone's 50th. And she said, and one of them said, "Don't take our photo, we're not part of this. We don't want you to get in trouble." I said, "There's my card, form a group, I'll get your shot. It's a special occasion, clients aren't going to care, I'm just, and I've done it for nothing." They wouldn't have had a photo of them all as a group for an occasion like that. And they're all like, "Are you serious? You do that for us?" Just no skin off my nose, I'm just dropping an extra file in Dropbox and I'll email you a link. And what happens a year from now when, the nephew's getting married or my name gets put forward? We met this guy at the commercial club and he was happy to help. So people talk, if they see you do the extra, it's a side to the photography. The photography, they expect you're going to do well. So you've got to be able to deliver on that side, but when you're dealing with people and if you want to do booking jobs, even if it's from a creative point of view, I do a lot with the Albury Gallery and I'm doing some workshops for them coming up for some drug and alcohol related stuff to help people that are coming out of that, which is a very heavy creative sort of vent on it. Then I guess you just have to be able to adapt to that and roll with those people and those opportunities. So did any of you have any, because I could just bang on like this for hours, do any of you have any specific questions or things that you're trying to achieve? And we can sort of flesh this out when we do our exercise. Do you all know we're doing an exercise today? Yeah.
I've got a quick question about the way that you go about what you do. Obviously you have specific outcomes and then you talk to your clients about those before you go to do it. But say, obviously you've already touched on with Sam and Renee that opportunity presented itself. But as far as all the other things, do you go with specific things in mind that you were going to achieve, or do you have that and then fly kind of off the cuff, or is it mostly, or is it a combination of all of it?
So you're talking about weddings in particular?
Well, it's everything really, because it doesn't. Well, weddings, yes.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, obviously you have to hit the brief. But then do you just go and think, look at that. That's an opportunity. I'm going to build that out instead.
Yep. So you've just kind of answered your own question.
Well, yes.
It's in the brief. Like don't mean to be
No,
rude. It's in the brief. You brief to any job that you do with photography or any freelance, whether it's web design or graphic design, you base it on the brief. And your brief is your agreement with your client on what you're going to do and how you're going to deliver it. And then it's up to you to find ways of impressing them enough to have, ideally, that happen. Where the next time something comes up, they're not so pissed off with you that they're going to ring somebody else. Because it's up to you, and the way to look at it is people will give you full points until you give them a reason to give you a reduction in points. So if you don't answer that inquiry on email in good time, you've lost points. If you don't deliver the job quickly, you've lost points. If you're a prick to deal with on the day when you're doing the shoot, you lose points. And with a lot of corporates, you don't get them back. So that's the game.
Yeah.
You have to deliver on all levels across the board from their point of view, not from yours. And that's the biggest shift some of you may have to make if you're looking at doing commercial work. In other words, doing it for money. You're going to make money out of taking photos. Then it's putting their needs first and being a nice person about it. And then finding any way you can, without being weird, to over-deliver.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to walk into a wedding and go, whoa, I've got Hollywood tape. Yeah. Who's first? Yeah. But you might say, I've got a kit in my bag. It's actually I've got a different camera bag. I had an old camera bag that wore out and I've turned it into a backup bag in the car. sunblock, chapstick, Hollywood tape, safety pins, Panadol, sticky tape, bottle of water, and they're just random things that at a shoot there's a roll of gaffer tape in there as well. There's a hat for me if I forget my hat because I'm bald. Yeah, instead of the Hollywood tape. Yeah. Roll of gaff. So they're actually it's a bag of opportunities to help people. It's not hard.
With that question before, what about artistically speaking? So are you prepared artistically for what you're doing, or do you just, so you want to do the soft, like the wool, like the soft wool, do you know you're going into that in the day, or do you have it in the car and go, this is going to work?
Obviously for that sort of thing you would have to plan it ahead, but in terms of the output, you have to keep an open mind and be prepared for unexpected results and hope for unexpected results, because unexpected results are things typically that you haven't seen before. So it's just the Heston example. He makes things that are beautifully unique out of a combination of things that already exist. So that's the equation. If it's high-level artistic photography, creative photography, I walk into an accounting firm and they want a black and white portrait shot with a softbox with a dark, like mid-grey background, or black and white, then that's going to be what it is. There's not much you can do with that. But if it's pissing rain and you've got a bride and groom that want to look like they look on their best day, which this is meant to be, then you've got to be able to find the ingredients to bring it together. And not just stick them against a brick wall and go bang, although that may look good. And if you do get some average shots, having the wherewithal to spend the time in post to sort of bring them back to a point. Like I've done a few editing jobs on weddings that were delivered that were subpar on processing and had to regrade them for the client. Sort of on the quiet, they send the whole album through and go, they say, well, we don't even want to really look at them because they're just flat and dull, and you can bring back a percentage till I've had to do that before. Not my shots, the other shots. That's rare though. So yeah, it's just listening and being aware. But I'm mindful of time, even though we're running early. Am I?
We're about bang on for that. If you want to do the reveal, do you want to do the reveal?
Yeah, we can.
What do you want to keep going? It's 11:30.
Yeah. Did anyone else have any more questions or? So, right. Do you want to do the honours or why? Or?
Oh well. Think about, there's the assessment floating around called Observe Professionals. So I know you're probably taking some notes on picking up what peak works, what you want to take away from that. Keep in mind that assessment's got a flip side too. So while you're watching him, I'm watching you. And so you want to be on your best behaviour, and I want to be seeing you killing it. The types of these briefs, the expectation is you'll come and you'll liaise with Pete, you'll do a draft, there'll be back and forth. I know some of you like to work in a Lone Ranger, kind of read it, go off, disappear for a couple of hours, come back. You might nail it, and if you do, awesome. Chances are, the more you talk about it with this man, the better off you'll do it. So,
yeah.
The rule is you get to draw from the cup, you get to read it. If you can keep it, or you can redraw one more time and then you have to keep the next one.
But you can't trade back.
You can't trade the next one.
So you may risk getting a harder one.
Yeah.
Right. But hard isn't bad. It's just a challenge.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, you got him in your corner. Like
and Ben, and it'll take you hopefully out of your comfort zone. That's the idea. Is we want you to go, I've never done this before. I'm going to give it a crack. So it's not like you have to deliver a finished image to us without any support. We want to work you through making any image. Like I said to you before, if I'm getting a shot of Sarah with the painting fire, the maternity shot, or if it's at sunset or whatever, there's actually a journey you go on, and the journey starts from taking the client to the location, and then you pull your camera out of the bag, and then you take a test frame on what you think the settings are, which is invariably wrong, and then you adjust your settings in the camera and you reshoot, and then you adjust it more, and then you might bring the light in, and then you adjust that. So it's a journey that you go on. So all we're doing is going on a journey, and we're going to be on the journey with you. So I don't want you to disappear, like Ben said, and feel like you've got to arm wrestle this thing and deliver a finished image with no support. We actually want to be part of the process, because there's some things you can pick up from us, hopefully, that are going to help you do it better and quicker later, more professionally. So this is an exercise in putting you out of your comfort zone and you picking up some things that you can use.